Hello, everybody, and welcome to Canonic University Radio, a podcast exploring fantasy flight games as Arkham Horror, the card game. I'm Dane.
I'm Dan.
I'm Ben.
And I'm
This
Harrison.
episode, I wasn't ready for Harrison.
Hello.
Sneak attack.
In this episode, we're talking parallel lives, a world where Daisy has one will, a world where Agnes uses health as a resource, and instead of knowing about 15 Dans, Ben knows about 15 Bartholomews.
See, the problem with this little fictional scenario that you've created, Dane, is I don't think there are 15 people named Bartholomew in the entire world at the moment.
Well, maybe in the parallel world.
You go back about 100 years, maybe, but I mean, it's just not believable.
Reach out, subscribe, comments at mur.fm. Let us know of your existence. Anyways, we're going to be talking about parallel investigators today. But Ben, how are we going to be doing that?
I guess we're going to do the usual thing that we do with the Investigators Arkham series. We're going to try to answer some questions about them. They're thematically very similar to... I mean, they're based on the same characters, right? So, but they're kind of like a mixed up version. So, you know, we'll kind of talk about their new greatest strength, their new greatest weakness, what type of role they can play in a group, and like what are some interesting cards that can work with them that they like a lot. We usually do their favorite movie, but I think it's going to be the same answers as we've done previously for them. So, and everybody has those memorized, and I didn't write them down on this sheet, so we're not going to mention them again. But so yeah.
The for anyone who doesn't remember what movies we assign to each of them, all 50 whatever investigators, the correct movie is Police Story, except Lily Chen is Police Story 2. So just to provide a little reminder to everybody.
Not sure that was right, but all right. I guess we'll read through these. Oh, man, wait a second. I have two notes here. Who put some type of weird upside down head on my slide? Dan?
I mean, it sounds like the kind of thing that I would do, but I did not do that in this case.
Is this the Elden Ring guy? What is this?
No idea who that is.
That is that looks more of a cyber gentleman, maybe some type of bioroid.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I guess I'll read Roland Banks. We were too busy discussing Pokemon and Elden Ring before the show. We forgot to assign these. Roland Banks, the Fed. So his parallel version, he's got 3 whale, 3 int, 4 combat, and 2 agility. At deck creation, he picks 3 different directive assets, which I guess I'll read in a minute, to add to his deck. As a free trigger, once per game, he can flip a directive asset face down, so it like turns it off basically. And his Elder Sign, he gets to choose a directive asset that he can ignore for the round, and he gives him +2. His deck building is he can use Guardian cards 0 to 3, Insight cards 0 to 3, Tactic cards 0 to 3, and Neutral cards 0 to 5. Has a standard deck size of 30. Additionally, he starts with 5 extra experience. And then, yeah, he gains these directive cards, which I assume is what this Netrunner references to. So he has 5 different directive cards. They're all assets, all permanents, and they all can only go in his deck. The first one is subtitle Due Diligence. It gives him a regulation, which a regulation is like an extra rule he has to follow for just Roland. So this one says you cannot fight more than twice each round. And then as a free trigger during a skill test while investigating, evading, or parlaying, exhaust this directive. You get +2 skill value to this test for each enemy engaged with you. So yeah, he limits his fight, but he gets bonuses on other types of actions. Red Tape, you cannot play more than 2 cards each round, but as a reaction, you can play an Insight or Tactic event and exhaust the directive, and that event gains fast. Consult Experts, you cannot voluntarily assign damage or horror to ally assets, but you have 1 additional ally slot. Leave No Doubt, you cannot move more than twice each round, and you get +3 sanity. And finally, Seek the Truth. The regulation is while your location has 1 or more clues, you cannot commit cards to skill tests unless you have discovered a clue this round. Reaction, after you discover a clue, if an enemy is at your location, exhaust this directive, draw 1 card. And then the parallels also come with advanced signature and weakness. But why don't we talk about the just the regular investigator before we take a look at those? So Harrison and I have been doing a playthrough series of all of the challenge scenarios, and as part of that, we were playing all of these parallel investigators. And I played parallel Roland when we did Roland's. He was kind of interesting. The extra directives give you a lot more to think about in your turn because you want to try to like, you can't just like fight 3 times if you have due diligence or whatever. And you want to try to figure out how you can benefit from the trade-offs of the directives, right?
Mhm.
So I guess strengths for parallel Roland. He still works well as kind of a combat guy. You can pick directives that either don't limit his combat or maybe make him a little bit better at like evading or something. Like if you do the directive 1, you can like fight twice and then evade something or parlay something or grab a clue or something. I didn't feel like he was like extremely strong at like being a main combat guy or being a main clue guy. I think he's like still a little bit more hybridy. What do you guys think of parallel Roland?
So when we played them together, it was kind of neat to kind of see the contrast between them. And I think that regular Roland was obviously more incentivized to get like at least finish the enemy off. But I didn't really. I mean, maybe it was just from the way that you built it, but I didn't really feel like he had a lot of that firepower. I don't know if his deck building had to do with it either, because he only can get up to level 3 and weapons, right? Or guarding cards.
Yeah. So
That's right.
he can't get any of the big end game weapons, so he's a little bit more limited in that capacity. And he's not Mark, so he doesn't have just like 7 base combat effectively to make up.
Yeah.
I mean, who is?
It's worth mentioning that like I think his card pool is basically just kind of worse because most of the good insight things are secret cards that he would have access to anyway, unless there's like level 3 insights I'm not thinking of. Most of the tactics are like Guardian Seeker anyway, so I think your card pool kind of gets worse if you pick Parallel Roland. But I don't know. I mean, the directives are pretty cool though, right? Or at least some of them are.
Yeah.
It kind of seems like, do any stand out to you guys as like this one is clearly the one that you build a deck around, or like this is one that you'd probably never take? Because the one that maybe stands out to me is Seek the Truth. Looks like it'd be really good.
Yeah, I think like at first I was trying to build Roland, whereas he's more like 70, 75, 25, where he's like shoot guys and then get clues, whereas Trisha's kind of like the opposite of him, where she's like get clues and evade guys. Parallel Roland is, I think, very much not that, and I kind of like fell into that trap of like making him a little more combat-y, then realizing like, oh, I can't take big guns or whatever, and that's not like the end all be all of combat. Of course, you can always get like vicious blow level 2, overpower level 2, and 45s and stuff like that. But these lend themselves more to a better like clue getter, and I think for me, I was kind of like theory crafting decks for him. The directives were kind of a hindrance for me at first, and then I kind of realized that he does give that 5 extra experience, and we just got a fantastic card called In the Thick of It, so he can take Stick to the Plan at level 0 and get 3 things out of his deck that he can play immediately, which lets him helps him get set up with like Ever Vigilant, like right from the start. So for that reason, I really liked the you get +3 sanity because you can just take one and one trauma. That being said, I think that there's a lot of different things you can do. Like Red Tape is also really interesting because it lets you play things fast that almost nobody else can play fast, like Drawn to the Flame and stuff like that. But I think that generally speaking, this deck sort of calls for you to play one of my favorite cards in the game, Handcuffs, because one of them says that you get +2 skill value for each enemy engaged with you. So the optimal solution for that is you kind of handcuff humanoids and then engage them, and then you just get this buff for the rest of the game when you're doing stuff. And it's not great, but it's just kind of a neat thing that you can do. So those are kind of my feelings on Roland in general. Parallel Roland, anyway.
See, I looked at that one and I just said like, oh, that's the directive I wouldn't take because the handcuffs thing sounds like a lot of work and I'm lazy, and I don't know, it only works once per turn. I don't know, maybe I'm wrong. It could be kind of cool.
Yeah,
but I think that's what's neat about it though, is that there are like each of the directives seems like at least you kind of could choose it and kind of like get some use out of it. So you have like a lot of different, 5 choose 3 is like a lot of possibilities, right?
Yeah, I think the Roland deck I played had the due diligence in it, which I think I attempted to use in some cool way almost every round, but it usually didn't work. Either because the whatever action combination I had didn't work out, or the plus bonus I still failed with.
Nice.
But and then what else did I have? I think I had the ally one and the sandy one, and those ones were fine. You could play around those fairly easily.
Yeah, the ally directive is pretty cool because you could, what's the math? You could have like 12 sled dogs out if you get them all teamwork to you or something.
You can't assign damage to.
But you could have a big attack, I guess. I feel like that's a fun idea. I don't know if it's a super practical a game, but it could be fun to go for. I'm kind of the Seek the Truth card. I don't know why I didn't use that one. That one seems like one of the more powerful ones.
It gives you kind of like the opposite of how normal Roland's ability works, and it also it would work really well with Alice. Alice's last name I forget. And yeah, it kind of makes you into like a Trish like kind of like, it gives you like a similar ability to her. So I think that one would be really fun, especially in like a small group.
Well, you could do fun stuff where like you play a card that gains you a clue while there's an enemy there. You get the clue, you draw a card, and then then you can then commit stuff or whatever. Like you can disable the penalty on it.
Yeah, and you'd play some of the good Joe Diamond cards like Scene of the Crime and Working a Hunch,
What about weaknesses for Parallel Roland? Obviously, he has some built in because by taking directives, you gain some weaknesses, but just like in general.
Well, he doesn't have secret cards anymore. That's kind of huge, right?
He has Insight 0 to 3, which is like almost all the secret events.
I mean, there are some cool like mystic insights, like Drawn to the Flame and Delves, right?
Oh, that's right.
You can do that.
Delves is an insight, isn't it?
Is Delve an insight?
I feel like it is.
I think the big one is like just relative to regular Roland, like losing regular Roland's ability is a really big deal because if you're playing like a solo deck, you can get just most of your clues off of that or like half of them. Or in a 2-player deck, it works really, really well if you're like the main fighter. So I think like the worry with this parallel version is like you have a lot of fun directives going on and maybe you have like a very fun, weird deck, but you're maybe like not getting as much value as you would have from just getting a clue every time you kill something.
That's true. Yeah. It's tough. I still haven't played him yet. So like the thing that I'm wondering, I guess, most about Roland is how pivotal is it to use the flip a directive face down once per game thing? Because Ben, I know that you played with him, and like, is that sort of like something that you were planning for the whole time, or did you just kind of do it when it was convenient?
I assumed at some point I would need to do it to gain back some actions that I would otherwise need. Like I assumed there'd be some time where I had to like move 3 times or had to fight 3 times or something, and that would be when I would disable it. I don't actually remember if I ended up doing it or not.
I think you considered it.
I might have disabled the move one for Sandy, but we might have worked around it when we played. I don't quite remember. That was the first one we did, and that was like 2 or 3 months ago.
It stinks because it's not like Lily's whatever her versions are disciplines, because like you can't like crack them to do something cool. It's just you just don't have to worry about the challenge anymore.
Because for Lily you have like a benefit, and then you do a cool ability, and then you have like a penalty. Or no, then you just don't have the benefit until you don't do something else, right? So
yeah, you can get it back.
I mean, I definitely like the theme of these directives for Roland because it's like, oh yeah, I gotta follow the rules, But
Like a younger, fresher faced Roland, right?
yeah.
So that was so just moving down the questions a little bit. Did we talk about what role he would play?
Yeah, I mentioned it a little bit. I mean, he can kind of and I think he leans a little bit more into maybe getting clues and being like secondary fighter, just because he can't power up his fight quite as much. Slash, the directives kind of hinder him a little bit in that aspect. But he definitely could, be secondary fighter or secondary cluer in a big group, and he can definitely still do Roland or hybrid Roland for like smaller groups, I think.
Yeah, I think that's all right. I don't think that he could be a main like seeker, because he doesn't have access to the deductions and things like that anymore. So yeah,
Well, regular Roland was pretty soloable. Do you think that you would solo with him?
I think he's still good.
I almost think that would be like the best use case for him. I mean, that's kind of
Yeah.
maybe arguably the best use for regular Roland 2 or like two
Yeah.
player. But I think for this guy, I could picture making like a fun solo deck for him. It's really hard to see how he would fit into like a 3 or 4 player group.
I do like the puzzle though. It's like
Yeah.
he seems kind of like this scenarios, or if you called it like a cycle, like puzzle investigator, which is cool.
Yeah, among the parallel, you mean?
Yeah, like every campaign
Yeah.
seems to have like one puzzle investigator, and he seems pretty puzzly.
Yeah, I think maybe like so the puzzle aspect is interesting about him, but I think that maybe not necessarily like an investigator, like an inherent weakness, but like a weakness of like the creation of this is that it's a little harder and less accessible for like newer folks or people who aren't as like confident with like playing investigators in general to play, because there's a lot going on with each of these directives, and it might be tough for some people to remember, like, oh, I can only play 2 events a turn or whatever, oh, I can only move twice a turn, and that could be a turnoff for some people. But it's also a huge boon for some people, because a lot of people like me like kind of those challenges to figure out like, okay, am I doing everything as efficiently as possible, because with more restrictions comes more creativity and such. So
yeah.
Are there any favorite cards that we haven't already mentioned that we should talk about? I mean, for me, the big one is like those insights that could instantly get clues that could trigger seek the truth, like working a hunch and scene of the crime. Any others?
for me, it might be like Drawn in Flame, because like red tape. Somebody said in chat that they think red tape is the strongest. Yeah, it was Comrade, and that to me is just such a huge deal. Being able to play like Drawn in Flame fast, especially in like something like solo or even duo, where 2 clues might be the max that spawn, or it just completely offsets the math for a lot of locations, which is super cool.
I don't know if it's necessarily like a build around, but I like that I always really like Word of Radiance, and I guess that's never mind. I was gonna think that is that a blue card or a purple card? Word of Radiance, yeah, that's
I think
a
it's an
purple
insight,
card.
right?
It's purple insight, right?
Yeah, and like one thing I was kind of seeing with like Mystics is that it's kind of hard to get the blesses in the bag, and maybe there's a little bit of kind of cool bless potential in there because blue does a lot of bless stuff. I don't know, because because it's always kind of cool to have like a word of protection access anyways, but word of radiance kind of replaces that if you have blesses in there.
Yeah, I mean, I think some of the best bless cards in blue are level 4 or 5 though. He doesn't have access to.
Oh, that's right. That's right.
The chat is suggesting that like he has access to a lot of the Seeker curse generating cards, so you could make some type
really?
of Seeker based cursed Roland deck or something. And do some nonsense with that.
Stirring up trouble.
Remember also that on the topic of wards, he can play Forewarned because that's an insight.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else to say about Mr. Roland? But not the. I feel like we should make some kind of joke about like the evil Cooper when the real one is trapped in the Black Lodge or whatever from from the new Twin Peaks. Like there's that's kind of obvious. That's like just sitting there for us.
Fair.
Yeah.
No.
So, do we want to look at the advanced cards at all? Or do we want to come back to those later if we have time?
I mean, they're there.
All right. So
they don't do too much that's different, right?
Yeah.
I guess what are the differences?
So the advanced cards are, if anyone doesn't know, upgraded version of both the Roland signature weakness and signature asset. So his 38 special and cover up. The rules for them are you can optionally take them both in the game, or if you play through the challenge scenario, you have the opportunity to pick them up. So his 38 special, I should have put the regular cards in here so I can remember the difference. I think it looks like if there's more than one or more clues in your location, it gets a bigger strength buff, I believe. And
Yeah,
it looks
I think
you
a regular is 1
gain-
and 3.
Yeah, and when you defeat an enemy, it looks like you gain an ammo back. Plus, it has some more symbols, and I think it starts with more ammo.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So that makes it a little better. It'll refill itself, and it does have a pretty big +4 bonus to attack, if there is a clue in your location. So that can be a fun, powerful combo. It's probably a little bit better in regular Roland than Barrel, I think. And then advanced cover up, it starts with 4 clues on it instead of 3. So you have to discover 4 clues to clear it off.
That really sucks.
Yeah.
Pretty bad.
See, the thing with the core investigator weaknesses is they're like all pretty bad. So so having an advanced version of them, like you have to really want the improved signature if you want to take that advanced version for cover up. Or you're playing in standalone, you don't care about upgrading cover up.
We could talk about it later, but
Yeah.
like I mean, like you don't have to earn them both at the same time, but you could earn them on accident.
Yeah.
One question about how the Roland's advanced signature works. If you're playing the regular Roland face, and you defeat an enemy and pick up the last clue in the location, does that trigger before you place the ammo on it, or would that not count? That's kind of a weird interaction, but it says if the attack defeats an enemy and there are no clues on your location. So does the defeat come, I guess, like, because this would all happen in one, so maybe you don't get the clue? Or you don't get the ammo back, rather?
I have to look at what the timing is. It looks like Roland's thing is after you defeat an enemy, discover a clue. This is if this attack defeats an enemy, and there are no clues on your location. So I think if triggers before after, I think it's the same timing point. I can't remember if it falls into the weird rule with skill tests where you sometimes resolve the afters before the thens and ifs, but so I'm not sure that would quite work, but I'm sure we can consult the Council of Rules Nerds. I'm not sure if that's what their name is now, but we can hope. I think there's a poll. So, all right. Let's look at Daisy. Am I just reading all these? Is that what's happening?
Sure, why not?
I can think of many reasons why not, but all right. Daisy Walker, parallel librarian. She's still a librarian. So her stat line is now 1 willpower, 5 int, 2 combat, 2 agility. Her ability is you get +1 willpower and +1 sanity for each tome asset you control. And free trigger 1 at a time, resolve an action ability on each tome asset you control, ignoring the action cost. Limit once per game. Elder Sign, you can return a tome asset from your discard pile to your hand. 5 health, 7 sanity. Can't remember if that's the same as normal or not, but
She's 5 and 9 normal.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Her deck building is deck size 30. She can use tome cards level 0 to 5, seeker cards 0 to 3, neutral 0 to 5, and up to 5 other level 0 guardian and or mystic cards. Yep. And she does not have 5 extra cards like Roland, so that's it. So she still has her regular tote bag in Necronomicon or the advanced versions if you go that way. So yeah, what are some strengths for Parallel Daisy?
She's a seeker. She has 5 books.
Mm-hmm. But regular Daisy also has those, so she must have some other strengths, right?
Well,
I don't know.
I guess does access to Guardian cards get her anything?
Oh yeah, that's right.
I'm trying to think if there's anything that like that opens up, but I don't know.
So there's I kind of was thinking about builds for her. Did you want to talk about it, Harrison?
Oh, I mean, like you did run when you built the deck for us when we did that. You ran what was the Edge of the Earth permanent? Geared up? Yeah. I mean, that's probably worth a mention. because that's great to get a bunch of books out, including like Schaffner's. But I would say that. Lord Batboy says Alice, which
That's kind of neat.
Yeah, I can give her extra int. I mean, she can still get to Milan if she wants int, or she could do both. Yeah, the geared up strategy, which may have not worked at all when we played the parallel scenario, but most times, like, because she might be loading up a lot of tomes, which are all items in her deck, then you can run geared up, which lets you first turn. It lets you play any number of assets, right?
Reducing the cost by 1, yeah.
But you can't take any other actions. Or you can't take any actions during your turn. So like the idea there is you probably get 4 or 5 tomes, or just items in general in your mulligan, or you try to mulligan for that many, and they're all relatively cheap. So, and if you get like Schaffner's catalog, or Schaffner's, however you say it, you can play that first and then play them all cheap, and then you're set up to go.
Keep in mind though, she doesn't get any kind of way to have more than 2 hand slots other than playing the Topag, right? Like, even if you like, do you really want your deck to be like 15 tomes when you're still only able to use a couple of them at once?
I think it's not just about the tomes though, too. She can take secret cards, right? She takes
only up to 3.
Yeah, so she can take like the boots, the hiking boots. She can take other things that are items to help her out in that regard. I think that it's just like, it's kind of cool to do that because there are a lot of interesting smaller things that, like, yes, she cannot use Old Book of Lore as effectively as the regular Daisy, which is definitely a weakness that we can talk about. But she can use like Scroll of Secrets, which is kind of fine, which comes down for 0. She can use like Schaffner's, like Ben was saying, which comes down for 1 and then can help pay for other things. So she's got a lot of access to those kinds of things. And there's also a something that takes up an arcane slot. I can't remember the name of it right now, but it also increases the number of tomes that you can have. It's not an item, so you can't play them with it, but it's not a bad idea.
Yeah, it feels like if you don't run the geared up, or you don't have other ways to compress actions, you might have a little bit of setup in trying to get a bunch of stuff down, so she can try to have a whole bunch of books. I don't know if having all those books down helps her too much, unless they're giving her passive things.
Well, they are.
Yeah, I mean, like, moving to weaknesses just for a minute. I mean, regular Daisy is very, very good, right? And I think that relative to regular Daisy, to me, I just look at this and I think like losing the up to level 5 secret cards and level 2 mystic cards is kind of a big deal. You lose Ward 2, you lose some of the really good high level secret cards that you could use. Her like once per game use a bunch of tomes at once. Like, I think that could be like a really fun combo if you can pull it off with a whole bunch of books out, but is that really going to like swing the game or let you, like, are you going to win a scenario that you wouldn't have won because of that? Like, I don't know, maybe, but
I mean, you have to have a lot of tomes out for it to make up for her regular one, which is use an extra action, use a tome every turn, right?
Exactly, because like regular Daisy, you get hopefully Old Book of Lore or maybe like the Scroll of Prophecies or something out like turn 1 because you mulligan very hard for it, and then over the course of the game you get like a lot of free tome activations, especially, it's, I don't know.
Yeah, I think that's the major weakness, right? Like, regular Daisy has like 33% more actions than this.
Yeah.
Because of the fact that once she hits her Old Book of Lore, she's drawing another card every single turn, essentially. And this Daisy cannot do that. I think the reason for geared up that we were mentioning before is just that, like, she does get the passive bonus that she gets +1 will and sanity for every tome you control. So, like, you really want those tomes out fast and as quick as possible. So if you can just have like 8 or 9 tomes in your deck, it doesn't really technically matter what they are. As long as you just get them down, you're getting some value, and then you can play your tote bag later. But again, it is a lot of setup to do what regular Daisy does, kind of maybe worse. But
I mean, like, it should be noted, there are some books that don't have hand slots, right? Like Schaffner's.
Yeah,
I don't know.
Schaffner's. I think that's the only one.
Yeah, I mean, I think this is like a fun, interesting like puzzle kind of deck, but I think that it's like what her card is pointing you towards is like building a deck around like playing as many tomes as possible, which you run into hand slot issues. You run into like, are there that many? Like, Old Book of Lore is great, but if you're using like the 4th best tome, suddenly you're kind of like down the list a little bit. But I don't know.
Yeah.
I mean, so that's kind of like weaknesses a little bit. in terms of a role, I mean, regular Daisy is a very good like primary clue getter. I think that this version of Daisy is probably still better at that than anything else. Does the changes in this card open up any entirely new roles that regular Daisy couldn't do, or is she mostly still just a primary clue getter?
You're maybe doing a little more support on damage stuff because of Alice. Like if you take Alice and maybe Dynamites or something, I don't know. You could help out in that way, but not a terrible amount different, I think.
You don't really think of like battle Amanda, like a battle Daisy. Like I feel like I don't really see her.
You can
jumping
take the
over
fish book, right? Or
the
Abyssal Tome.
Doom one. The Doom
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
I mean,
Abyssal.
couldn't you take it before?
Yeah.
With
Well,
regular
I don't know.
Daisy?
I don't remember what level it is.
It's level 2, right?
Okay,
So you could.
Yeah. So,
Yeah, it's all two. So-
Yeah, like maybe you could make a decent kind of like more hybrid-y build with this than you could with regular Daisy, but I'm not really sure about that because I think you could do like a kind of interesting janky hybrid regular Daisy as well. So I don't know.
Yeah.
Jury's still out.
What?
I feel like. Yeah,
I guess what puzzles me on her is like you get +1 willpower for every tome you have out, but what do you do with that willpower? Like
you get
because
five.
she
You
can't
get
play
five.
spells, right?
Five mystic cards.
yeah, she has access to like level 0 mystic cards. Like I don't know what she does with that. I mean, I guess it makes it so she can be better at passing treacheries from the counter deck or something. But
You don't go insane because you only have like five sanity.
We also, this is controversial and people get mad at us, but like it kind of puts her in the same position as Diana, where yes, in theory, her will can scale up really high, but starting with 1 will is pretty bad, right?
Yeah.
Like you wouldn't want to fully commit to playing will spells with this parallel Daisy, I think, because for the beginning of the game, you would be stuck with really low will, and those spells would be pretty bad.
I feel like probably just like it's Mateo syndrome for another weakness is just like I'll just forget to do her thing. Like
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm gonna
or
not do it.
you try to save it till the end of the game or whatever.
No, you don't need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you don't need it. So
yeah.
What's the last question? I forgot. Favorite cards.
Any favorite cards anything besides tomes? Like Schaffner's is an interesting. Like that's an interesting pick. Anything else?
They geared up. Just because I like geared up.
Yeah.
And any reason to play it on somebody, this is kind of an investigator who could do that because she's like kind of item centric, right? Obviously she's tome centric, but you can kind of build her in a way where you have a lot of items and ideally get at least 3 assets out with it. So
I mean, she can't do very much with it, but she could run true magic.
well, yeah,
I don't.
but she can't run spells.
She can't run spells, so.
Yeah.
It's true magic.
Yeah. Anything else to say about Daisy, or should we move on to the next parallel individual?
Move on to the best class in the game.
Well, do we want to talk about her? Let's talk about her advanced cards real quick.
Oh yeah.
So her tote bag, it gains some icons. Still gives 2 additional hand slots, but then it also has a free trigger of when you play a tome asset during your turn, you can exhaust the tote bag so the asset gains fast. So it can help her get her tomes out without spending actions, which is kind of nice. The upgraded Necronomicon. So this one is it still starts with 3 horror on it, and you can't leave play until you get rid of the horror. While it's in play, you treat each elder sign you reveal as a cultist, tablet, and elder thing. Instead of it being treated as an auto fail.
Gross.
So
I mean, how bad is that really? Like that's in some cases that's maybe not even as bad as treating it as an auto fail. You know?
Yeah, I think it depends on the scenario a little bit. Sometimes those symbols can be pretty bad.
Yes.
And if you're drawing all 3 of them, there's like a decent chance you probably fail unless you're really pumped up your test. But it is no longer a guaranteed failure.
Yeah, like in hard, can it? What's like the worst that you can think it could do? Can it just put a bunch of monsters in Doom down?
I mean, there's scenarios where the elder thing is just like add a Doom to a location and you can never get rid of it or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. There's also like play this in Dream Eaters because then you get the sweet cat buff, right?
You could even get it without a cat, without being friends with a cat.
That is true.
Yeah. I know, it's definitely a little bit more interesting than her regular weakness, which is just, it's Elder Sign's now an autofail, there's 2 autofails. Now you can sort of like, you could now be like, all right, I'm gonna commit a whole bunch of stuff to this so that I pass, even if I draw this or something. I don't know.
Oh yeah,
and
technically it's home too, right? So
Yeah,
it
it
does
is-
give her the bonus.
Yeah, it does give her the bonus while she tries to get rid of it, but she doesn't have the free actions to, just passively get rid of it over 3 turns.
Oh, that's so bad.
If you're doing the parallel, Daisy, yeah. Yeah,
I think
so.
I think if I was playing regular Daisy, I usually don't play the tote bag, so I wouldn't bother upgrading it. And if I was playing parallel Daisy, then you probably have to play the tote bag because you need more hand slots. So you might as well play this version because it's better and it's, I don't know, seems fun.
Yeah.
I mean, that's three. That's three icons if you commit it, even if you don't like to play it.
It's true.
Yeah, or if you play well prepared.
Yeah.
Alrighty.
Yes, definitely.
Let's move on to Skids O'Toole. So parallel Skids O'Toole, he's still an ex-con. He is still a criminal. His stat line is 2334, which I think is the same.
Yep.
His ability is free trigger, spend up to 3 resources, test a base skill value of 3 against a difficulty equal to the amount of resources you just spent. If you succeed, gain twice the number of spent resources. Only agility and wild skill icons may be committed to this test. Limit once per round. Elder Sign is +1. Choose a level 2 or less card in your discard pile and add that card to your hand. He has 8 health and 6 sanity. Which I don't remember if that's different or not. And his deck building is deck size 25, rogue cards 0 to 5, fortune cards 0 to 3, gambit cards 0 to 3, neutral 0 to 5. And additional options: when you upgrade a fortune or gambit card, you may instead pay the full experience cost of the higher level version and leave the lower level version in your deck. It does not count towards your deck size or the number of copies of that card in your deck. And then he still has hospital debts and on the lam. So this version of Skids is very fun, in my opinion.
Yes, it is.
I played him in our parallel our challenge run. Basically every turn I was trying to figure out how I could spend 3 resources and get 6 resources back to have more money all the time, and it was great. I don't remember if I did anything productive as the Skids during that scenario.
I was about to ask,
but I had a lot of money and it was very fun. Because the scenario goal was to get as much money as possible.
Exactly. Yeah.
But I mean, he lets him lean into like the big money builds, where he can ramp up his money and then try to spend that money in some way, or by having all that money, gain some benefits or whatever, like well connected or whatever.
He does. It's fun that unlike some of the other parallels that we've talked about, he does get the full range of green cards, so he is likely to have the payoffs for having a lot of money.
Yeah,
which is nice.
His deck size is smaller, so a lot of like the exceptional things like double are going to come up more. In addition to that, like if we're talking about strength for a second, obviously gets a ton of money. I think he knocks Jenny off the second place for who gets the most money in a game. Obviously Preston is first, but this Parallel Skids is close second. He gets a filthy amount of money very fast because of the fact that just a fast test. You don't even have to spend money. You can spend up to 3 resources. This could be a 1 to 3, so you just net 1. But if you have like Gregory Gry, you can bet money on Gregory Gry. If you got skill cards that like move you, like the 1 green one, or anything that like draws you cards like Mandex level 2, anything like that is just going to get like a ridiculous amount of value, even if you're engaged, no matter where you are. Mythos phase, you can do it. Yeah, you can do it any point. So like it's just a really versatile ability to have.
Yep.
And he can have the smallest deck size in the game because he can take Underworld Contacts and he has 25 deck size. So he can have a 20 card deck limit.
Let me ask briefly about the upgrading and keeping the lower level card. That's kind of interesting because it's definitely the only case in the game where you can do that. Like it kind of breaks the rules. Is that really good? Like, so for instance, like Lucky is a pretty good card, but like, do you want to have like 4 Luckies in your deck or even more than that?
I mean, because his deck size starts smaller, like adding additional luckies, especially don't the level 2 and level 3 lucky replace themselves, right? They're both draw a
Yes.
card. So like lucky in particular, like it could be good to just have 4 of them in your deck, because they're effectively cantrips to help you pass stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know what other. I don't have a good list of like the other Fortune and Gambit cards. If there's other ones that are fun to have multiples of.
You could have 4 look what I found.
You have daring maneuvers.
Is that the bad one?
Daring
Like
I
Maneuvers
think
is
20,
fine.
21 or bust is probably a fortune card, but there's no upgrade for that.
Yeah.
No.
Money Talks.
Like a lot of these, there's no upgrade for them.
He might like Money Talks, but I don't know if he wants to have extras in his deck.
The dodge, the dumb luck is one that you can get. You can get 4 of. They're not. It's not like super great. But I think the best ones
Yeah.
are luckies and look what I found.
Ooh, Hot Streak is a fortune card, so you could have 4 Hot Streaks.
Oh.
I think what I'm kind of getting at is like it seems kind of fun, but I don't know if that really moves the needle on how good he actually is. Like I don't know if it really makes
Yeah,
me.
He's far
think-
and away better than regular Skids.
That's a low bar.
That's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, because he can. Yeah, because he has the money to buff himself, he can, use things like I don't know, I can't remember the name. I just looked at it. The card that lets you you do a money skill test instead of a combat skill test or whatever, or well connected, or
Money Talks,
money talks.
Yeah.
All that stuff that like he can ramp up his money much faster than regular Skids, just because of his ability here, and then he can translate that into actually passing skill tests. And rogues have enough cards now that there are like efficient rogue cards to actually do damage to enemies, or even get clues. I mean, he also has an int of 3, so he could also like grab rogue clue getting cards instead and use the money to make up for the lack of high base skill. So
You're not playing Taboo. Double or Nothing's pretty good, but it's kind of nice to have like there's a fast level 0 test that you can have access to for all of those like sweet Winnie cards that are just like a draw a million cards, and you could just commit everything to and just like start the game with like 10 cards in your hand.
I was immediately asking myself, like, is drawing thin a gambit by any chance? Because that would be pretty good, but I don't think it is.
No. So what about some weaknesses?
He's Skids O'Toole.
Yeah, he's
No,
still
numero uno.
Skids. His weakness is still really bad in campaign mode, because you lose experience unless you have money. Which I guess actually he'll probably have enough money that he can pay off his debts relatively easily. Yeah, his stat line is still not great, so he does need
that's like the biggest one.
He does need to set himself up to have money and have the money cards available to benefit from the money. He can't
Totally.
go out of the gate very easily. He still has 4 agility, so he can at least dodge monsters, but willpower is going to be set against, and it's going to be harder to pass tests out of the gate, I think. But once he's set up and going, I think he's probably okay on most tests, at least the ones that he plans for.
Sometimes, I mean, like maybe we could talk about it when we talk about like what role they fill in, but it kind of still feels like what Corset Rogues did, because it feels like he's going to play his own little mini game while everybody else is actually discovering clues, and then what? Like, he has a lot of money.
Is that what it felt like when I was playing it? There's, yeah.
You have a lot of money.
That's sort of a thing that rogues do, and I think survivors to a lesser extent do, is they're doing their own little mini game to get themselves set up to like in the back end of the game like pop off hopefully and get a bunch of clues or murder a bunch of stuff. So I think he still has that.
That's what mystics do. Rogues and survivors just collect a lot of money and they just kind of hang out.
Well, mystics have to just like right? Get their assets out. Yeah, he can get back Black Fan.
Black Fan is really, really good payoff for a lot of money.
Yeah. There's a ton of cards that work with the big money deck. It's just you need to ramp up to it. That's that's kind of a little bit of a downside there. For sure.
Is there any sort of like way? Because like I kind of hate having ending a scenario with like a big pile of money because it feels like there's just resources I didn't do anything with. Is there any like desperation type thing that you can do where you can just spend all the money, like fire axey stuff? Marinus Compass. I'm not gonna say the B word, but like
Yeah, I mean, there's not a lot of just kind of like unlimited money sinks available in the game, really.
Like Streetwise, but
Yeah, like that. I guess that would be like one of the major ones, and that does help with his bad stat line a lot if you're using like agility. But
if you do double double, you can like double the favors, which are really expensive, right? Like double intel report you can do, and that's like $8, so that's a lot. But yeah, it's tough because like most of the rich life builds are like you're not doing anything for the first like 3-4 turns maybe, and then suddenly you're online and you can do stuff, but there isn't really anything that just like blows everything out of the water except for something like Lola, right, where you can just spend money to force clues off of locations,
yeah,
or spend money like with Lila.
Conrad brought up a good point. Is if you mix, and I don't know if we necessarily have been talking about like mixing up the front and the back, but I mean, using his access to Guardian with teamwork can help like just spread that money out, which could be pretty good. Because what, Ben, at the end of one of your, I mean, of the scenario that we did, you had like 45, you had like 60 money, and that kind of injection of money is pretty good.
Yes,
but I needed that money.
Yeah,
you needed that money.
That was my hard-earned gambling money.
That's like Dan with clues.
I don't think I could share.
I mean,
that.
back when we did like Netrunner like League at the local game store, we had like an achievement sheet, and I remember one of them was like end the game with 75 credits or something.
Yeah.
So Ben was just kind of trying to get that, you know.
Yeah. A completely alternative way I guess you could play him is he does have access to like a lot of the fortune cards are like the survivor if you fail instead do this cards. So I suppose instead he could lean into being Skids and just failing at everything, and have a bunch of like look what I found or close calls or you could catastrophe. Oh man, so he could lead into some of the dumb survivor stuff to like help himself pass after he fails, which would be
just to kind of clarify. So in terms of roles for him, like do we think it's different from his kind of normal state, or is it like basically? Because normal Skids is like not really excellent at anything.
I was gonna say, what does regular Skids do?
I mean, normal Skids is like kind of okay at fighting, and he he can still do the money cards and build up money to kind of be still kind of okay at fighting. He's a little bit less good at getting clues, and I think maybe this Skids is a little bit better at getting clues just because the Gambit and Fortune cards help him out, and he can have the money to pump Streetwise or whatever. So I feel like the Skids is better than regular Skids, or at least I definitely had more fun playing him than regular Skids. I think, even if it maybe he still wasn't contributing as much as like other rogues might contribute or other classes, but
or the other Skids.
I don't know. I feel like I might have contributed more than the other Skids.
We'll see.
We can check the tape, which you guys can find on YouTube. Do you want to look at the advanced cards real quick? I don't remember what the regular Skids cards do, but the advanced on the lamb has more symbols, costs 0, which maybe it cost 1 before, but it's fast and you can play it during any lightning window, and until the end of the round. Non-elite enemies cannot attack you. At the end of the round you may disengage from each enemy and move up to 2 locations away. What did regular on the lamb do? Dane,
it was so bad. It was so bad. No, I think it just did the first part where they cannot attack you, and it's like, well, that's great because they're still engaged with you, so they're just gonna get like wreck you second.
I activated my internet powers. Wow, this is
nice.
This has a huge number of differences.
Yes.
The regular one costs 1. It is fast, but you can only play it after your turn begins, and until the end of the round, non-elite enemies cannot attack you. Isn't that what Trish's does? But Trish's is better somehow than that. Like you turn
Trish's is like a way better version of that, and even Trish's one is not that good. Usually just commit it. This is Skids is like one of the worst signature cards, I think.
Yeah, this is definitely way better. It's interesting that like moves enemies away from you. That's pretty powerful. So I mean, if you want to get the upgraded cards, like this is definitely better. But if you're just playing to commit it for symbols, then wouldn't bother. The upgraded hospital debts is move one resource from your resource pool. Onto hospital debts. Limit 3 times per round. When the game ends, if you have fewer than 9 resources on it, you get 2 fewer experience. So I think the regular one you need to have 6 resources on it, but you can only do it twice per round. That's fine. That's actually not that bad because remember, for these weaknesses, other people can contribute to that.
It feels like if your deck is, if anything, if roughly the kind of normal amount of stuff that you expect to happen with this deck is happening, you should have more than enough money, right?
Totally. Yeah. And the really good part about like Skids' weakness is actually they're not as bad as the other core investigators, mainly because this stays out. And so if he should cycle his deck, which I've been playing Return to Dunwich like kind of alongside one who cycled his deck a couple times in a scenario, like this just stays out and you don't have to worry about it coming back into the deck and like, you know, kind of like coming back out so you have to pay it off again. So it's actually not that bad. And the fact that you can, I think the big stricture of this weakness is that you can only do it 3 times per round. In the original, you can only do 2 times per round. So like, if there's only 1 round in the game left, like you have to leave or whatever, and it just happens to come out, it's really bad because you're just destined for less experience, right?
Yeah.
I mean, but at the same time, like if that happens like once or twice over the course of the campaign, like okay, you lost 2 experience. It's not great, but it's not the end of the world. If it happens like a lot of times, you're gonna fall behind. But
I'm just myself off a cliff.
No, but I'm just saying compare it to like Finn's weakness, where like it could just like wake the boss up and like ruin everybody's plan for how to finish this scenario, right? Like the ceiling for how much this can really do to you is like you're not going to be happy about it, but it's not that bad.
Sure,
It's not drama.
Yeah. Like if it because the Roland's one, if you start with Roland with like 5 sanity and then you take a mental trauma, it's like, well, time to retire and just die because then this is not going to go well, right?
Then you just pack I See You in Hell. Or what's the other one? The orange one.
Ghastly Revelation.
Ghastly Revelation.
Yeah. All right. Let's look at Agnes. So parallel Agnes, as we know, she's a waitress. Her stat line is 5223, which I think is the same. Her ability is as an additional cost to play a spell event, you may take 1 damage. If you do, reduce the cost to play that event by 2, and you may shuffle that event back into your deck instead of discarding it. Elder Sign lets her heal 1 damage, and her stat line, or she has 8 health and 6 sanity, which I think is flipped from her normal version. And then her deck building is deck size 25, mystic cards 0 to 5, spell cards 0 to 3, occult cards 0 to 3, neutral cards 0 to 5. And similar to Skids, when she upgrades a spell card, you may instead pay the full resource cost of the higher level version and leave the lower level version in your deck. It does not count towards your deck size or the number of copies of that card in your deck. And then otherwise, she still has the Heirloom of Hyperbora and Dark Memory and Random Weakness. Yeah, so she kind of reverses what regular Agnes does, because regular Agnes is like playing around with taking horror in order to like do some extra damage output, while she's taking damage here to like save money and maybe recur spells potentially. So what do you guys think's for strengths for parallel Agnes?
Built-in economy.
Mm-hmm.
Right, like a lot of mystics have issues with like once they use their uncage the soul, and well, that's just it. They have uncage the soul, and that's basically the only economy. Like, sure, there's voice of Ra and stuff, but like they really kind of have to lean into their minor classes to figure out like what they're doing for resources. Like Dexter has like rogue access, obviously, but like Agnes, like parallel Agnes never has issues with money. Really, it's really her issue comes with card draw. We can talk about that later, but like
Yep.
You just never have to worry about like once you play your spells that get down on the board, you just don't have to pay for things. You use your blood, which is so critical for the lore value and the flavor of this investigator. I love it.
See, I would almost think that like, because mystics, like Dane said, they do kind of rely on their off class for like money and card draw. I would almost think that getting the draw off of playing spells from the amulet is like even more important than the money, because like the Agnes's amulet always seems like it could be really powerful if you get it out early and if you have like a ton of spells in your deck. When I play normal Agnes, I just kind of never really, it doesn't feel like the cards are really there to fully commit to that plan. But like to me, that's the appeal of this Parallel Agnes, is like, if you could pull that off and just draw like 2 cards per turn just off of playing spells, that would be incredibly strong.
Yeah, and you get to recycle them, right? Like obviously, like
Well,
Mystics
I mean,
have ridiculously strong spells.
I don't know how much that necessarily even matters though, because like just putting a card back in your deck, like in other games where you don't get a free recycle your deck when it goes empty, that would be more important. But in this game, like, who cares if it goes in your discard pile? Don't you just shuffle it once your deck runs out and you draw it again anyway?
Yeah, but like, what's better than actually having like a deck of 5 cards that is only like razors, read the signs, and soothing melodies, right? Like that's just infinite value and like super big stats to just hammer enemies and clues with.
Yeah, I mean, it's also like, it's not even, we don't really even have to argue about it because it's like it's a thing that you get for free. Like I would consider the like get $2 off of the cost of these spells. Like you basically need that to pay for them because a lot of these spells cost $2 or $3. So like you can consider the shuffling it back in as just like a fun rider on that kind of.
Totally, and I think like sorry, go ahead.
No, you can go ahead.
I think the big strength that this Agnes has over regular Agnes, who is very, very good. She's definitely one of the better investigators for sure. But or at least Mystics. She can play Holy Locket, the mirror. Yes, Hallowed
Holy
Mirror.
Locket.
There we go. We got there. I never remember because it's this huge mirror in some closet somewhere. Hallowed Mirror is so big for this investigator because once she gets that down, she has like healing for days, and she can just keep cycling them in her deck. Especially if she has like an Arcane Initiate out, she just goes through stuff so fast and can keep herself, potentially other allies, healed up.
It would be nice if she had access to bandages for that, but except for the other side. But
yeah.
I mean, I think it's also kind of a trap too to have like all those events shuffled back into your deck because like then you don't have access to your. I mean, you just have to dig a little bit deeper for your economy thing.
Yeah, like if you found everything already, then it's great. But if you haven't found everything yet, maybe not great.
Yeah, I think maybe you're supposed to not start doing that until you've found whatever your key assets are, right? And then once you have your key stuff out, you're like, all right, I'll just shuffle these back in because I don't want to. I'd rather draw one of these again than my second copy of whatever or something, or I don't need to shuffle my discard pile because I've already played enough one-off events to get me all the money I need for the rest of the game or whatever. So
if we're segueing into weaknesses maybe or flaws, I do want to just point out that regular Agnes, the pinging ability is extremely good. So giving that up is like, I mean, again, the best case scenario, if everything kind of works out the way it's supposed to, where you play the heirloom with Parallel Agnes and then you're just cycling spells all day, that's pretty good. But like even at that, I think it's kind of like a toss up whether that's even better than just being able to ping stuff. The other thing I would mention really quickly is I think Dark Memory would be way more annoying for Parallel Agnes because with regular Agnes you're playing Peter and stuff anyway, so you can kind of soak some of it. You can even use it to trigger the ping sometimes, which is helpful. And that Agnes does have 8 sanity to begin with. This version of Agnes, you only have 6, and you're maybe not playing as much Horror Soak. Like you probably have Soothing Melody, like Dane said, but you might not be able to kind of tank the horror off of Dark Memory as easily.
But Dan, with Parallel Agnes, you can play Dark Memory cheaper and return it to your deck.
That's a good point, and you do get to draw a card off of it if you've played your heirloom, obviously. Yeah. So,
no, you're right. It's definitely so much scarier for Parallel Agnes. Like she's gonna want to play it right away.
So I mean, like with regular Agnes, I think that especially with the Survivor stuff, you had a lot of healing. I guess not really, but with the Mystics, you had a lot of horror healing, or at least Peter Sylvester. Is there a lot of access to kind of mitigating your hurting yourself by damage with just her card pool? I mean, you brought up Hollowed Memory or Hollowed Mirror or whatever, but
there is the new multicolor purple-red spell. There is a new purple event from Edge of the Earth that heals like 1 for each spell slot you have occupied or something.
Meditative trance or something?
Probably, I don't remember. But yeah, I think that's a good point, Harrison. There's not that much. Like there's a few, and it's probably enough. There's also that new-ish purple spell that's basically like what is it? Omen of something. Clarity of Mind. It's like Clarity of Mind, but for health. There's a spell like that
healing
now.
words. Healing words.
Yeah.
Mm.
So there's definitely stuff you can do.
And if you to the other side, then you have Jessica Hyde. You don't know what you do with your fist, but and bandages, like I said.
Yeah, and you got leather coats. I've seen people play
Sure.
like leather coats and scavenging. So if you use something like your read the signs, you're probably going to succeed by 2 because you've got a huge will, right? And then you throw back out your leather coats, play them for free, play all that kind of stuff. I think she's like the most combo-y sort of oriented, which is kind of neat.
Yeah. I think that like from my experience for all of these, I think that she's probably the one that I would probably mix the front and back the most than the other ones.
I think in terms of the roles that she can play, I think regular Agnes you probably don't want to go pure clues with her because the pinging ability is so strong, but you can do like a mostly just pure fighting Agnes, or you can do a hybrid. I think the same is basically true with this because you can play like read the signs, and I guess read the signs is really the only good like spell event that gets clues, so maybe you're a little bit more towards being like a pure fighter because you probably don't want to play like Rite of Seeking and stuff in this kind of deck.
That's exactly it. Yeah, because you're like really, really incentivized to be playing a lot of events, and there are a lot of events that do damage. Like you've got Magic Punch, which I never remember the name of, and
Storm of Spirits.
There it goes. Storm of Spirits and Razors, and Razors are obviously a phenomenal card, but you only have read the signs, and because Drawn to the Flame isn't actually a spell, which kind of shocks some people.
Yeah, no, man,
that's the other thing.
I really wish, this seems good, but I think what would make me get this out of the box and play it would be if they print another spell, kind of like Read the Signs, because it feels weird to me to go like a pure fighting build with Parallel Agnes when regular Agnes has this ability that is so incredible for fighting things. If you could do more of like a hybrid build with Parallel Agnes, if there was like another spell you could play 2 of besides Read the Signs, for me that would nudge it over into like, oh, this actually seems really cool and I want to try it.
Do you think having Eldritch Inspiration is worth considering that kind of stuff? Like if you did do like Sixth Sense and then just Eldritch Inspiration all day? I don't know. Is that good?
Yeah. I'm not too excited about it.
It's a cool combo for sure, and that's kind of the thing, right? Like Parallel Agnes can do a lot of things because of the fact that if you're recurring like just the right amount, like if you're playing at a certain level or whatever, and you're like you got in your deck to basically only healing and read the signs, then technically you can be the best seeker in the game or whatever. But like it really, there's a high level of variance there, right? Because that probably won't happen. But you can try your hardest to make that the scenario. So
yeah.
Any other cards that we haven't mentioned that we think Parallel Agnes would like? I think we went through a lot of them already.
Any spell event that's playable, stuff that heals health.
I'm so mad at the occult trait because I feel like we've been teased with occult as like being something amazing since like getting Marie in the book, and there's still like 10 occult cards.
Yep. Marie can sit down for a little while longer.
I can't wait for everything to come up, Marie. But yeah, I was just looking at the occult cards, and there's not really very much that she'd like.
There's still not much. I'm sure MJ will remember it in like 3 campaigns. He'll be like, "Oh, we should put occult on like all these cards."
Well, we need to get Rita's trick campaign soon.
I mean, they did.
She's
they did
a couple things, but
they did a thing in Magic where they like made a set where dinosaurs were a thing, and they went back and they like eroded a bunch of old cards that clearly had dinosaurs on them to have like the dinosaur trait.
I remember
so like they could taboo a bunch of cards to be like, this is a cult now if they wanted to, you know.
Yeah, it's true.
They probably won't, but
maybe they'll taboo some cards to have some dinosaurs on them. That'd be great.
That would be really cool.
MJ.
There's an idea.
I think we failed to ask MJ what her stance on dinosaurs is whenever we've interviewed her. We should make that a priority next time.
Write that down. Sure.
Cats are kind of like dinosaurs, so
I don't know.
I don't know.
It's a bit of a stretch. So Agnes's advanced cards. So her heirloom, it gains 3 health and 3 sanity, but it can only be only damage and horror from player card effects can be assigned to the heirloom. So it's a soak. It kind of can soak like her own abilities card. I think it could. I think it damage like if someone makes an attack they miss. I think that might actually attack on an enemy that's on Agnes.
Like shriveling.
I think that counts as damage from a player card effect. I'm not sure though, but yeah, definitely like the backfire from shriveling or other spells like that.
Yeah, you're going to be able to use it. You're going to have
yeah.
opportunities to use
So
this.
it's nice. It has an extra symbol for committing. But yeah, in terms of like if you're going to play it as advanced, I think if you're playing parallel because you kind of want to play this already anyway, it's definitely nice to have. I don't know about regular. You might still just commit this and read a Holy Rosary or whatever. And then her advanced weakness costs 2 more. I think it costs 4 instead of 2.
That's real bad.
That sucks. And both,
Yeah.
I mean, if it's
Oh, God.
parallel, you know,
If
whatever.
it's parallel, it still basically costs 2, but
it would cost 0 if you're parallel otherwise.
yeah, so that's pretty nasty because it still puts a doom on the agenda when you play it. It can still cause the to advance, and it still does 2 horror to you every turn it's in your hand. So,
Yeah.
And you're using that turn's ability to give you the discount.
yeah. It's
The thing about this though is that like Parallel Agnes has the ability to just lock this out of the game for a very long time, right? Like if you draw it early, you can get rid of it, and then you can cycle enough things back into your deck to where it's going to be a long time before you see this again. So that's kind of maybe a good thing in her favor.
I guess, but I mean, regular Agnes, you just like don't really draw enough cards to draw your weakness twice anyway. So
Yeah.
I misspoke. You can just. I didn't realize you can use that event as many times as you want. There's no lit, right?
You can. Limits your health.
True.
You know,
The only limit is death.
All right,
But yeah.
so parallel Wendy Adams. Her
Yay.
stat line is 4-3-1-4, which I think is the same. The ability is she's a drifter, but now she's also blessed and cursed. Add Tidal Memento to your deck, which is a new card for her. And then a reaction, after you successfully evade a non-elite enemy, seal either 1 bless or 1 curse token on the Chaos Bag, or any bless or curse tokens revealed from the Chaos Bag during this test on that enemy. In effect, her Elder Sign is +2. Search the Chaos Bag for up to 2 bless and or curse tokens and reveal them, ignoring their effects. I think we never remembered to look up what that specifically meant. That's fine. And her backside is deck size is 30. She makes a trait choice at deck creation. She either chooses blessed or cursed or both, and gains +5 deck size. Sorry, she gains +5 deck size if she chooses both. Deck building options: 0 to 5 survivor, 0 to 5 neutral, and cards from your chosen traits 0 to 5. And then the Tidal Memento is a permanent asset. It's an item and a charm reaction. When an enemy would be ready or doom would be placed on it, release a bless or curse token sealed on an enemy. Cancel that effect. And then reaction during a skill test you're performing, when a chaos token would be revealed from the chaos bag, resolve a bless or curse token sealed on the enemy instead. So her kind of thing is like she runs around evading stuff, and then she'll seal tokens on those enemies, and she can grab those tokens later when she wants, when she is doing a skill test, or she can release them to like keep the enemy evaded effectively, or avoid doom. So like a lot of options there, really.
Yeah, I mean the 2 things that you missed explaining this, Ben, was that her health and sanity were also switched, and that the grown-ups quote is great. It's like a Rugrats quote that you'd see in like a Nickelodeon show or something. It's like grown-ups don't understand or something like that.
So yeah, her health and sanity are 7 and 7, Dane.
They totally switched them.
Yeah, okay.
So silly.
Little things are important. Grown-ups don't see that. Is that from Rugrats? Is that what you just
Probably.
said?
They were like, nobody will notice this.
Parents just don't understand. That's what Wendy's all about.
It's true. Yeah. No, but I mean, from what I was seeing with Wendy when y'all did the live stream, she could just keep people locked down for a very long time, right? Like
Yeah.
this is like almost built-in slip away on an investigator, which is kind of nuts.
Well, okay, but I mean, the thing is, like, okay, first you need to find this one copy of Title Memento, or do you start with that?
It's
permanent.
permanent. You start with
So
it.
that's
That's pretty good. But you do still have to put blesses or curses in the bag, right?
Which I think Seekers, or not Seekers, Survivors do best.
Survivors are that. She also
That
has
is
full
true. They
access
do this
to-
normally useless thing better than most other. But I mean, that's what I'm saying. Is like, do you have other payoffs for bless or curses? I mean, like this could be good. You know.
I mean,
I think this is
Survivors have Ancient Covenant, which
Yes.
can, and then they can grab like Favor of the Sun or whatever, which is what Harrison did in our run. So we saw the bless tokens like really helping out, either locking stuff down or letting us like do a skill test and just passing it without having to commit stuff to it. You know, I think our Wendy run was our smoothest run somehow.
So
Yeah.
good.
Didn't Parallel Wendy go like murder Wendy? You had the bow, right?
Yeah,
The enchanted bow, and you
I
were
had
able
an
to, like, stick
amazing.
people?
I mean, we'll maybe talk about that at a different time. But yeah, I had an amazing opening hand there. But what was I gonna say? It. I think just like any investigator that has access to word of protection is always a plus, and I think word of radiance access is always really good. I don't think I've ever read run a word of radiance and it didn't pop off. So I mean, if you have yeah, I don't know. So that's just a plus, I guess.
Yeah, we haven't tried. I don't think any of us have tried the cursed Wendy with this yet, have we? I know I haven't.
We've not. Stay tuned
Yeah.
though. Harrison and I are maybe going to be doing a curse run soon.
Lord Batboy is advocating for the Lucky Penny for Wendy. I don't remember what does Lucky Penny do.
Yeah.
Uh,
Everybody was very upset about a coin.
Oh,
And then
you
they printed a coin.
You have to flip a coin, and if it matches like whatever your sealed token is, you get some effect. So
But I guess so. So just to talk about like strengths, being able to kind of like slip away stuff forever is good. Being able to do the Ancient Covenant thing that we discussed an episode or two ago, pretty well is definitely good. And then I don't know her. I guess she doesn't really. I guess the 7 and 7 and the 4 will and 4 agility, like she's just kind of resilient in the same way that normal Wendy is, kind of.
yeah, she's definitely very resilient to the encounter deck. Obviously she struggles with like direct combat, unless she leans into using like agility cards, which I think we mentioned. What is it? The enchanted bow? Is that what you use, Harrison?
And Nephthys definitely
Yeah,
deserves a huge call out. Just
All the cool bless stuff. She can take Holy
I mean,
Spear, technically.
it's just a great way to kind of like be able to like side pink things, and I don't think anybody should run this Wendy as like as your main fighter, but she's definitely good at running interference because being able to like double stun somebody for a while is pretty good.
Yeah, and she's still good at evading. I guess if you're using the parallel back, she misses out on some rogue cards, which probably hinders her a bit clues wise because she
Things like pickpocketing.
Lock picks, definitely
missing
sad.
out. I mean, she still has access to survivor clue stuff, which not quite as strong, but you know, she can still work with it. And if she's running blessed stuff, then she has a little bit higher average passing of test stuff. She is, I guess, missing out on the very powerful Wendy ability to redraw.
I was gonna say, if we're
token,
talking
right?
about weaknesses, like we've said that Wendy's regular ability is one of the strongest in the game, so missing out on that is a pretty big deal.
Totally. 100%. Yeah.
Rite of Sanctification is always good to have on the team, just because it helps everybody else, including you, play everything cheap.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Lord Bad Boy mentions in chat like the cards that can evade multiple enemies at once, and therefore you could stun lock them all with blessed tokens at once.
Oh, wow.
Oh, that's neat.
But you probably shouldn't have that many enemies on the board, anyways. Like,
well, if you're just evading stuff, that might be what the state you're in. I don't know.
I mean, maybe on maybe in the vengeance scenarios in what's it called when you're not trying not to kill a bunch of snakes.
The pacifist forgotten age runs that
Kill no
do.
snakes.
Yeah. She'd be a great contender for that for sure. It still is hilarious to me that like there are just so many investigators that use Rita cards that have Rita on it that are meant for evading things better than Rita actually can, just because they're just better investigators than Rita ever will be. So,
All right. I
it's
told
great.
you, Rita's getting the trick campaign.
So that
Sure,
was
sure.
we've been talking about favorite cards for Wendy. Should we, as for roles, is
Sorry.
it still kind of like hybridy? Like it sounds like you guys try to do more of like a full-on enemy management thing, which maybe kind of works
We only kind of had to because Wendy, like
because you have
like
two
Wendy,
Wendy's.
yeah. So
Yeah.
we had to have somebody deal with the damage, and we went in blind, so we didn't really know. I don't know if I'd necessarily force her to have enemy management like that. Like, I don't know if she's better at cluing because she doesn't have lockpicks though.
Yeah, I mean, you like added the bless support, which helped me like be able to evade things easily and grab clues easily on important tests because we did like the ancient covenant favor the sun stuff. Plus, there was just like always like 10 blesses in the bag all the time, which was kind of nice.
Yeah.
We didn't have to worry about as much committing super hard. But yeah, definitely still a little more hybridy. And then maybe like support-ish sort of. I don't know, like, you know, support's not really like its own role, at least when we talk about it. But you know, she can do bless or curse support and maybe help somebody else that is also on the team leaning into that pop off a little more. So
Yeah, I think she's like the locus of bless and curse builds. Like, she just adds so much to them. Like the ability to keep bless tokens in the or curse tokens in the bag, but also not really in the bag and like locked on enemies is actually kind of strong because like you don't have to
Which
worry about them.
it
And
could be pretty.
Unless someone wants to use those curse tokens,
Yeah.
right?
Well, sure, yeah.
I mean, it could be pretty good. I mean, like we didn't see it in action, but it could be pretty good with like the curse spell suite, where like she doesn't necessarily have to be running favor of the moon because she can just can she use that like as force the curse? I
You
mean, she
can,
has
yeah.
to.
Her title memento. During a success you're performing when
Mm.
a chaos token would be revealed, you can instead resolve something on an enemy.
I don't know if she's doing it better than any other mystic that could be doing that, but she could be forcing the good effect, but she still has to pass. So I don't know.
She's goodwill, so she could do it.
Sure.
I think she's pretty versatile. Like the bless slash curse builds are generally like sort of vanilla enough for you to do kind of whatever you want. Obviously, her stats are pointing more towards like seeking and stuff, and I think that that's always helpful. And I mean, a really big boon of Wendy is like what we were talking about earlier is just that she's never going to be a weight. Like she always carries her weight. She will generally pass mythos tests. Generally, be able to like dodge some folks when you need to, and so yeah.
I won't. Yeah. I wonder if she could do a lot of like she can force a lot of those fail more stuff. Nah, I don't know. Like with curses. I don't know.
she might be able to. I'm not sure. Yeah. I guess if she leaned into curses, you could make it so you're very likely to like just get a 0 on any test you do, and then try to trigger fail more cards. I don't know. Do you ever choose to increase your deck size by 5 to get both blessed and cursed?
I don't know. Let's hear from Dan about this. I'm curious as what Dan thinks.
I mean,
I feel like
I
it might
don't,
be controversial.
I don't give a shit. I'm not gonna play parallel Wendy. Like, do whatever you want. I mean, whatever.
That's
Um,
fair.
no, I mean, I don't know. I think it's already like filling up your deck enough just to like get one of those two things going. It seems like it would be very ambitious to try to synergize both. But I don't know. Go for it if it sounds fun. You know.
I mean, it's just good to like. I know a lot of people do like to do like all bless runs and all curse runs, and Wendy seems to like she'd be able to kind of help out in one of those like runs too. Like it's always nice to have like a Mateo, Mary, Wendy. I don't know if we have a fourth bless investigator, investigator.
That's fair. Yeah. One thing I did want to touch on real quick as we're kind of ending Wendy, we didn't really talk about the fact that Agnes also has the same thing that Skids does, where she starts with the 25 card deck and can include like upgrades of things. So she can have like 4 Storms of Spirits, etc.
Yeah.
That's a thing. Just to mention that and throw it out there. But otherwise, Wendy, I would say probably stick with a 30 card deck and then use either Bless or Curse, depending on what your run is doing.
Yeah. As for her advanced cards, so the amulet was trying to look at the difference here. So yeah, so this lets you play. I think everything's the same on it, except you may play any event in your discard pile as if it were in your hand. So it's not just the topmost event. So that gives you a little bit more control. And it's also and it still has the force effect of after you play an event or discard event from play, place it in the bottom of your deck instead of your discard pile.
It does free you from the necessity of keeping your discard pile in order because you can just not care about it.
Oh yeah, that's the difference.
As for her weakness, it is remove all non-weakness cards from your discard pile from the game. If no cards are removed by this effect, shuffle this card back into your deck. Otherwise, take 3 direct horror. Oof, that seems incredibly bad.
Like half of your.
Well, but keep in mind that with her regular weakness, you just always take 2 direct horror, right?
Oh really?
Yeah.
Which is terrible.
Oh.
It's one of these core set weaknesses we've been talking about.
Yeah.
So this one is like if it removes cards from the game, which is also really bad. At least you don't also take a big horror sandwich right to the face. You know.
No. I think you still take if you remove cards from the game, you take 3 horror. If you don't remove cards from the game, you shuffle it into your deck.
Oh, okay. So it's just straight up way worse.
It's just god awful. Yeah.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't use these upgraded advanced super advanced cards here because they seem pretty scary.
Well, you're
So
not a fan of using her amulet at all, so yeah, it's just a straight downgrade for you.
That's
Especially unexpected courage.
Yeah, that's what you say. But I mean,
basically,
now that we talked about them, are there anybody that you wouldn't really mind taking both if you ran them up right out the gate?
Skids, maybe?
Well, honestly, no, because half the reason that I say like don't try to build a whole deck around the amulet is that you only get 1 copy of it. But if you do have 2 copies of it, I mean, I still don't think it's amazing, but at least you can maybe reliably actually find it. You know?
Well, no, the advance doesn't give you an extra copy of it. It just
you don't get to play both at once?
No, it gets upgraded into it. Yeah.
Replace both.
Okay, in that case, nope.
I mean, I think I'd play the upgraded Skids cards and maybe the upgraded Roland cards.
Totally.
Because their weaknesses are annoying, but most of the time you can deal with them, and they might hit you like once a campaign or
play the
Daisy
one too.
The Daisy one?
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, let's see play books fast. So
I mean, I guess if you're playing the parallel one, maybe.
Yeah, I think the thing, and maybe kind of like in summation for all the investigators, the big thing is that like the draw for these, and we're going to be talking about the scenarios in a few, but like the big draw for like going into these scenarios and picking up these advanced cards is that like a lot of the deck is just made better when you have the signature cards. So, and it's really kind of inherently not bad, but just unreliable to make a deck and expect 1 card to be seen, right? Like that's kind of my issue with Double Double is that like you're going to put that card in your deck and it's going to be the 30th card in your deck every single time. So if there were a way to like just have your signature card in opening hand, like Wendy's Title Memento is kind of that, so that's pretty good for her, but like it would be better. But the fact that you can't see like this amazing revolver that Roland has, or like Skids is on the lam, which can get him out of something horrible in a pinch, is kind of bad, and might factor into like, well, should you play these scenarios for that bonus later? But
yeah. So I think we're going to talk about the challenge scenarios briefly, which Harris and I played through in our MER Plays series recently. You can check those out on YouTube. I think there will be spoilers for what happens in the scenarios and the resolution. Maybe we'll try to avoid saying how it went for us, so people can check out the videos. I don't know. We'll see how it goes. But
we should really try to blast through these pretty fast, just because we've already been here for a while.
Yeah. We'll try to bang them out. So I lost my note sheet. 1 second. All right, yeah. So by the book, this is the Roland challenge scenario. I guess I'm not doing them in release order. I'm just doing them in class order. But so the whole gist of this one is it's a kind of a remix of Midnight Masks. I think the prominent thing here is you have to actually like arrest all of the cultists and like bring them to the police station. So you're in the you're in the Midnight Masks map. I think mostly almost exactly the same as from the core set of being in Arkham, and you have to like go to each location and spend clues to like search for a cultist, and then once you reveal the cultist, you have to like drag it back to the police station, and then like spend more clues to arrest it, basically. And that's kind of the gist of it. It's a different spin on Midnight Masks. I think you very specifically cannot murder the cultists.
Yep.
Right, or maybe just
Even the
exhaust them when
regular
you defeat them. I don't remember exactly.
you can't defeat them, so you I guess they just don't take good damage
Yeah,
when they have 1 damage left and you hit them.
Yeah, you leave them with 1 health. But if you hurt them, like I think if you beat them up a little bit, you have to spend less clues to put them in the victory display. Yeah, so I mean, this was like a fun like win more type scenario. The rewards for like all of these scenarios are like a little bit of experience, except for the investigator that they're about. So in this case, it's Roland. In which case, if you win this scenario or get a good resolution, you get a free upgrade of the advanced card, or free of advanced signature card, or a free downgrade of his advanced weakness. But if you fail the scenario, you are forced to take the advanced weakness or downgrade your advanced signature if you already have it. So it's a little bit higher stakes for like the investigator it's about. What did you think about this scenario, Harrison?
I mean, I think that it was. I mean, so when we played, we ran them with the regular and the parallel investigator, and I don't know if we were always consistent about which one was the real Roland or whatever. But I could see it getting kind of annoying if everybody has to run around the map and only the regular Roland can do like the cool thing, or in this case, like bring him to the police station. I mean, I love Midnight Mask. Is one of my top 3, and it was a cool take on it. But I think that at a certain point, like dragging the enemy around got kind of annoying, and it could probably treat you pretty bad if you if you're playing in crazy multiplayer and can't actually defeat all these cultists that are like making doom and stuff.
Yeah, I think the timer on it was fairly tight, at least in our experience. I don't remember if we lost some rounds to Doom or not. But you also have to get 10 cultists to get like the top victory, which is a lot. You still have the normal 6 cultists from Midnight Masks, plus I think there's like this Mr. Grey enemy that pops up at some point, and then you also have to do like the regular cultists from like the cultist set.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's kind of good though, almost, because I feel like every time we talk about the win more scenarios, you always say like, "Oh yeah, Midnight Masks, it's fun, but it's too easy now. There's only 6 cultists." So,
the map is also really weird. It's like has a weird like tunnel effect on like half of it, which makes it really hard to like move around, which is very important because you have to like drag the enemy. And I remember we had a hard time, and 2 guardians can't safeguard on top of each other. So
yeah, where the positioning of the police station is means that, like some of the locations are like 3 or 4 away from it, so it can be hard to drag stuff back. I think I recall liking it. I don't know. Someone could check the tape from what I thought 2 months ago. It is like kind of a more challenging Midnight Masks. I think the only thing that's limited to Roland itself is like you can spend money to exhaust cultists. I think only Roland can do that, but I think everybody else, anybody can do the like arresting the cultists. I think you just have to, anybody can spend the clues, I think. So and I think anyone can even spend the clues to flip them over to find the cultists. So like that one's not too bad. Some of the other ones, it's definitely like really restricted to like the main character type of thing. But yeah. I don't know. I think I liked it. I think it was fun. I think if I was playing Roland in a campaign, I might say yeah, let's do it. Let's give it a shot.
How did we get the put into play engage with you? Like, how does normal people get the enemy to the police station? Do they have to just get bonked a bunch of times, or I forget?
I mean, they'd have to like evade it and re-engage it probably. So it's harder for them. Well, Roland could just have it
bonked a bunch
of
times.
Roland could just engage it and then spend the money to exhaust it and run it back. So it's a little bit easier for Roland. But Yeah, or you could just take the hits. Especially, I think we did that probably near the end when we were trying to get one more in. So, yeah.
I think the thing about these scenarios is that you can only run them if you're running that investigator, right?
Yep.
And also they cost some amount of experience, I believe. They're similar to like the side adventures that you can do. And they're a little bit shorter, right? And they're all based on some sort of previous pack, right? Like this is Midnight Masks. Each of them has their own thing. And I think that some of them you need a specific pack to do, or else you just can't do it.
They're all like either from the core set or like the main deluxe box.
Smith.
Isn't
of one
one
of the campaigns. Like one's in Smith, one's
Threads of
like,
Fate?
No.
Or no?
No, you might be thinking of this one.
Okay,
no, I
no.
don't think so. Yeah, one of them uses.
Because Vanishing is in the.
I don't think any of them use the Forgotten Age. I guess we'll remember as we go through here.
No.
Yeah. Any other thoughts on By the Book?
It was fun.
Yeah. So, Read or Die was the Daisy one.
My god.
This one takes place at the university. So the one of the first scenarios from Dunwich uses extracurricular activities. Takes place at Minnetonka University, our home campus. So, this one is this one's the scariest one because the enemy in this one is just a book. Which is obviously the scariest thing you could face in
the greatest monster.
Yeah. So there's like a book storm, or what is this? I guess it's technically a book that's possessed by something, but whatever. It like chases Daisy around the map. The thing was with this one, it requires you to have Daisy, and also she has to have a certain number of tomes in her deck, and then it immediately takes all the tomes out of her deck and like distributes them around the board, and you have to run around the board and collect the tomes.
Guess who started it with a geared up build?
Yeah. So that photo we were talking about really did not work well with this, but I feel like most daisies it's not super crippling. But the gist is you need to run around and pick up the books, which you do I think by spending clues, and then you have to draw the books and play them, and you win the scenario by doing a difficulty 18 parlay test, but the difficulty is reduced for each tome you have in play. Daisy is the one that has to do it. And it looks like she also has to have 4 non-weakness tome assets. Non-weakness, an interesting qualifier. In play to do it. And this one has like a short timer. It's like 12 doom. And was there Ancient Evils in this one? There's definitely Ancient Evils in 1 or 2 of these scenarios, and we were sad about it.
I think it was this one because we were trying to ward everything.
Yeah. I think so. I think the Roland one, this one had it, so it made the timers a little bit tighter.
And there's only birds in this one, right? And the book.
Yeah, were there other enemies? Weren't there like?
So.
No, there weren't like students.
There were Yithian guys.
Really?
Yeah, there were like the Yithian monsters who would normally be in this. There were also like the little thralls.
Yeah, the thralls.
It was the thralls and the Yithians.
Yeah, there's a couple enemies.
Yeah, I mean, it was kind of interesting because you also have Jazz Mulligan in this one too, but he gets a special ability that lets you just teleport around the map, which we definitely abused because we just had this giant ball of enemies chasing us that we didn't have to deal with.
Yeah, Prime Daisy definitely teleported around to kite the horrible, terrifying book, so we didn't have to fight it or evade it too often. It's a fun little challenge. This one's definitely a strict you win or lose because you either like get that test done or you don't. And I think I played this one actually 2 times. And I think it came down to the wire on both ones because it takes a while to get all the books and then draw them, especially because you don't have like old book lore because it got taken away from you. So it's a tight timer, and extremely terrifying enemy. So Dan, you guys have any thoughts on this one?
It was definitely generated some fun goofs when we played it back when it first came out because of the stealing books from people using kleptomania situation. That was fun.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Daisy had kleptomania, so she was able to get extra tomes really quick by stealing them from other people.
Because I think I was playing Agnes and I had like some books in my deck, so it was fun.
Yeah, so I have an unending hatred of the encounter card Light of a Forgaman because of this scenario.
Oh, yeah,
I'm just looking out for every single opportunity to be like, is that a JoJo reference? because like Read or Die is like an anime that I think that MJ and the team would probably watch, but I don't know.
Oh,
I'm always looking
really?
for that kind of thing. But Read or Die is definitely an
Interesting.
anime name, where you read a lot of. I mean, there's lots of books involved.
Let me
Wasn't-
guess. Is it like high school kids and like the books have like ghosts in them and they have to read the books to fight the ghosts or something?
No, it's really weird. It's about like clones of historical figures fight, and the main character.
Oh, so it's like Weeaboo Clone High. I get it now.
Yeah, but the main character is like Bayonetta, but instead of using her hair for magic, she uses books for magic. I don't know. It's kind of fun. I hope that somebody in chat knows
Sounds
what
like
I'm
an
talking
anime.
about.
I'm aware there's a constant meme of like, is that a JoJo reference? And I think Dane was
Yes.
like very confident, like the tarot cards were a JoJo reference.
100%.
But I have not watched JoJo, so I don't know. But
JoJo invented tarot cards.
I'm fairly confident that is something MJ would have watched.
Dane like
100%.
hears like a Led Zeppelin song on the radio or something. It's like, oh, that's a JoJo reference or whatever. 'Cause, like
Led Zeppelin itself is a JoJo reference.
exactly like the existence of all these classic rock bands. Oh, it's all references to JoJo.
You try living with Dane. If anytime anyone brings like Italy up, he's like, "Is that a JoJo
the
reference?"
entire country is basically yeah.
The entire country, really, yes.
So
yeah.
the Skids scenario is all or nothing. This takes place as in the other Dunwich scenario in the casino. The name of the actual scenario is escaping me at the moment, but it's the casino one.
House always wins.
Yes, thank you. So the goal in this one is to get as much money as possible, which you can do by gaining clues, because you can cash clues in for money, or from beating parallel skids and doing a bunch of parallel skids nonsense to get a bunch of extra money.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's literally it. Otherwise, it plays very similarly to House Always Wins, where like the early part of the game, like the criminals don't bother you, and you know you're discouraged from killing them because like it makes the agenda advance faster. And then the second half, you're like they become tougher and scarier, and you know, chase you around. So there's a couple like unique enemies added to this. There's Siobhan Riley, an enforcer who, when she engages you, she steals money from you based on how much money you have. Very bad. I hated her. And a couple other like mob enforcer guys that you know, are harder to fight the more money you have. So like the gist is like the better you're doing at gambling, the scarier everything out around you becomes. So
I think that maybe we had a bad hand, to do a pun, when we were like playing this, because like I feel like we had to mitigate just gangsters existing, because all we were able to really do was evade them, and we were just kind of like evading gangsters while they were pretty much a problem. But I feel like if you did have like a mark or someone that just like murdered all the gangsters immediately, then you just hang out and gamble, because I don't remember the encounter deck was that bad.
We were playing double skids. Yeah, it's mostly stuff that like slows you down by taking away actions or punishing you for having like too much money, I think. I mean, I remember enjoying the scenario. I remember that we completely forgot like the effect on the second act, which like makes the enemies scarier most of the time, and Dane like kept like throwing a rubber duck at your head and be like, they have +1 health.
Yeah, true.
So but other than that, you know, I thought it was a good time. I liked the challenge of like, instead of like clues like converted to money, and the goal is to have as much money as possible, which is generally like, you know, not actually a thing that's useful directly. So it's just fun to try to amass as much as we talked about earlier. You know, it's like a fun achievement to like, oh, end the game with this amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, I want to bring up that like as we were playing, like I was like, I think we have enough resources. And we have like 30 resourses.
No.
And you were like, no, you're not a good enough rogue. I have a rogue set too. And I was like, no, we need to go.
I think you might be confused. You might need to get that lizard off. Like the goal for rogue is to get as much money as possible all the time.
Even if it includes if death ensues.
Yeah. Even if like
Ben
someone tragically dies, you know, that's not you. You know, even if that means adding curse tokens to the bag, your goal as a rogue is have all the money. You know.
But I did eat my words, and like I'm not gonna. I mean, like I don't know what the numbers are, but like even though I thought you did really well, like I think that we still kind of got like the okay ending.
I mean, I had a lot of money. Certain other skids that were in the room didn't have very much money by the end, so that might have hurt. And our final score was based on like total between all of us. So, but we did fine. It's really very fun. Dane or Dan, did you guys have any thoughts on this one? I'm not sure if you guys played it yet.
This was my favorite, I think, of the parallel things. Spoilers.
It seemed really fun. I would kind of like to give it a try. I think The House Always Wins always seemed like a incomplete use of the extremely cool do a gambling adventure in a casino adventure trope, just because it was like one of the first things they designed. And this seems like a fun way to revisit it. I'd kind of like to give it a shot.
Yeah, it's definitely a fun one. Agnes scenario is Bad Blood. So the gist of this one is you meet another sorcerer who's also like, I have memories of the past. And you're like competing with her to like get memories back faster. Yeah, that's basically it. So there's like memories that spawn on the map, and you need to like get clues to like pick up the memories, and your goal is to end the game with more memories than her. And she's like kind of a scary enemy, and there's no actual doom timer, because every time the agenda advances, she like hits everybody for a bunch of damage, and then it just flips back over. So if you can like tank enough damage, then you have enough time to like get all the memories. The other unique mechanic is like she picks up memories kind of randomly. You draw a token out of the chaos bag at some point, I think during the enemy phase, if I recall correctly, and then like you put it on the location she's at, and then like once it's at a certain threshold of like the total value of the chaos tokens, it will advance, or she'll pick up the memory, and then she'll like move to the next one. So like the pacing of the game is a little bit dependent on like how quickly she picks up the memories.
Yeah, I liked it because it reminded me of, what is it, Echoes of the Past, where it was like a race to like pick up the clue on each of those locations, and that's like what the cultists were doing. She was pretty easy to kind of like manage, I guess, until she wasn't. But like, we made a lot of decisions that like kind of forced her into one area, and it was kind of nice to like be able to move this around. I mean, like it felt like a race. Like
yeah. You can manipulate a bit like her pathing, because she has the patrol keyword and she goes to the next nearest memory. So if you grab certain memories around her, you can manipulate which way she goes. And that can either speed her up or slow her down. But she is definitely very scary. You don't actually want to like go near her. You don't want to have to fight her, because she's 8, 4 times investigator's 8, and then she becomes a little bit easier to fight and evade as she gets memories. But early in the game, that's like it's an 8/8.
He's like a ridiculously scary enemy, right?
Yeah, it's pretty bad.
More so than some of the Elder Gods that we've seen in the past.
But yeah, I don't remember what else was going on there. I feel like there was a high output of damage and horror coming at us from the encounter deck and like other enemies that were on the board. Where did this take place? Is this Threads of Fate?
This is Threads of Fate. Yeah.
Ah, that's right.
Does it use the actual Threads of Fate map? I guess it does. Huh.
Which is mostly the Arkham map, right? From Minimasks.
Yeah, but it had like Vilma's Diner and stuff in it, I think.
It did, yeah. And this walk down memory lane and Hyperborean. I think it has all of the things from that. It has like the No One Home and all those kinds of things.
I mean, I think that shouldn't be like a fault for the like format of this, because like these are challenge scenarios for like super fans or whatever, just people that have collections. So like I think that it's good that the designers are using existing assets for stuff and not making it like a mandatory thing to do. Like
in-game material, we need that sweet super boss energy.
Yeah, I guess I was just surprised that I had assumed they were just going to use like something from like the base pack for all these, but whatever, they grab one that worked out that matches the theme. So any other thoughts on this one?
I mean, Dane and I have a partner named Elspeth, so it kind of was like kind of hard to be like dash Elspeth in the head. Like
I mean, that was very funny to me.
More that she's just completely wrecking everybody because she's like the scariest thing.
Good emotional trauma for outside the game for you guys. So in this one might have been the hardest one. It could have just
We
been,
definitely lost.
for spoilers, I had played this previously and it also lost, so I haven't defeated this one yet. So it's a fun one though. It's interesting. Last up is the newest one, which is the Red Tide Rising. This is Wendy's challenge scenario. I feel like this was the only one that had memorable additions to like Wendy's story, which we didn't really even touch on the other ones. But like she's like got a clue about like the possible whereabouts of her father, who was presumed dead before this, I think, or lost at sea. So she goes to Innsmouth by herself. Standard small child adventures in the fish town, and it's basically the vanishing of Alina Harper, except
vanishing of Dad, right?
Yeah, except you're trying to find Pa. She gets like a specific item that like lets her like vacuum up hideouts or suspect enemies to like ask them if they know where Dad is or where he was last seen. And your goal is to like vacuum up all of those. Your goal is basically to clear the leads deck out. And yeah, I mean, because we played it as double Wendy, and like all of the tests for like getting clues off of like the suspects are like agility or will tests. We're very good at that, and Wendy's like pretty good at picking up clues still. So I think our experience was this was like one of the easier ones, but maybe if you're playing with different investigator combos, it could be spicy.
Yeah,
I think we elected Vanishing Alina Harper is like one of our favorites, even so that the Great Old Ones were doing that challenge, right? And this was the one that we submitted for their challenge run. I'm not sure if that has completed yet or not, but
I think it's still going on. So definitely do that. Because they started off with Miskatonic University.
Yeah. They're doing like they had some community content creators and stuff, community members like elect their favorite scenarios and like strung them together in like a fun campaign adventure. So what did you guys think of this one?
For this one, I remember some people in chat were like this little girl's just asking about where her dad is, and like the story seemed kind of weird because like there's just lots of people, including spoiler angry mob, come after her for just asking where her dad is, and it felt kind of sad.
I mean, it's rough. I think it's implied her dad was investigating Innsmouth or was somehow tied in with the fish people, so that's why they're suspicious of her, because they don't want to reveal their fish people secrets. So and yeah, it's not really a happy ending for the for her finding her dad or not. So but yeah, it's a little sad, but I mean it's kind of what I expected. I guess like for all these challenge scenarios, I guess they didn't really super advance the lore of these characters. So I guess for me, I was hoping they would do a little bit. I guess Agnes they kind of do a little bit, and Wendy they kind of do, but it's still kind of they're still at the same status quo, which I don't know. Maybe they have to do that for IP reasons or something. But
I thought the mysterious photo was kind of weirdly designed because I didn't really see it even possible for the mysterious photos like exhaustion effect to matter. But there's two sides, and you have to like flip it over to the correct side if you're talking to a suspect or working on a hideout. And I don't know, it felt like this scenario kind of tried to make a big deal about making sure to flip it at the right time. But even when we were like flying through the scenario, I didn't really think that it was ever an issue that like we had to decide whether it was on the hideout or the suspect side.
yeah, I think the idea was to limit you to potentially doing one of the objectives each round. But we kind of seemed like we had so much time that it never really limited us in that respect. So I guess maybe because we were able to just
We
like
didn't.
evade monsters and run away from them. We didn't have to
We didn't really.
fight them as
Yeah.
much, and we also like got a lot of leads and locations handled before the deck got too polluted with different enemies and whatnot. So that's
There
good.
are some, yeah, and like you're trying to get to the bottom of a leads deck, and there are some effects that like actually like shave off cards from the leads deck, and if it's not an enemy, which you don't know until you're at the end of it, if it's not an enemy, then you uh like save a few rounds doing that too. So I think we just got really lucky, but yeah,
Yeah, the goal was to exhaust all the cards of the leads deck to make it have no leads left. And every time you completed a hideout or a suspect by getting all the clues off of them, and then sending it away with the photo, you would immediately draw a new one. So that kind of dictated like where you had to go throughout the game, and sometimes it would send you all the way across the map. But I think we got kind of lucky, and like a lot of the ones we drew were like kind of close together, so that when we went across the map, we had money to just like buy bus tickets.
yeah, that you use that bus a lot. You probably spent at least like 20 resources in that bus.
Yeah, I had a lot of money because of the best standalone card in the game, Unscrupulous Loans.
Oh.
It's just so incredible.
0 for 10.
Such good value. Yeah, I mean, orphans need bus money to, she's saved up.
I think that this scenario, like a lot of the scenarios, like especially the Roland one, and the Daisy one, especially like are designed to be really annoying for the investigator. But I didn't really feel like anything was shooting Wendy in the foot. Like she's able to run around really quickly, and I didn't really think that there was anything that was like a challenge for her in this scenario. So that's probably why I went super well.
Yeah, a lot of the scenarios kind of target their investigators. Like, By the Book had a ton of movement, and Roland's kind of bad at that. Read or Die stole all of Daisy's books, so she couldn't set up. All or Nothing had to play Skids. But this one kind of really leans into Wendy's strengths. Like, all the parlays are will and agility tests, and she can just get clues really well.
Wendy's too strong. Can't stop her.
She's an orphan. No, I think the other thing about this scenario is that it's kind of high variance because the nature of like Doom enemies, right? You had like a lot of cultists who would put Doom on themselves and things like that. Is that variance? So like if you can just get unlucky, and then I'm sure that you just have way less time, right? Because you can't deal with enemies, or maybe you're just evading things or whatever. But yeah.
Oh, I also think that since we ran the parallel Wendy, some of the Doom cultists weren't able to do all of the stuff that they should have been able to do, and I guess maybe it might even be more difficult if you were just running like regular Wendy, because then you have to actually worry about the Doom threshold that the cultists are making, and if you ran it like solo, I don't even know what you would do about that. Like,
yeah, solo might be rough. But there is a lot of time in this scenario. Like, I think it's like 18 rounds total if you don't lose any turns to Doom. So if you can manage to Doom, it definitely makes it very easy. But if you let a couple go off, it might make it a bit rougher. But as for like the resolution of this scenario, it does advance Wendy's story a little bit. And
it was very emotionally charged. I cried a lot. It was great. 10 out of 10, standing ovation.
I'm just really happy to have had the opportunity to explore.
Yeah, I mean,
just like that.
Person just disappeared. I do want to ask real quick. I think they've said they're going to make more parallel things in the future, right? Like it's not just these 5, or is that just like suspected?
I don't know if they've hard committed to making more, but I'm pretty sure that's the plan. It is like free content that FFG doesn't really make any money for on, and I assume it takes up some of MJ's hopefully paid time at FFG. So I think they'll probably still do more, but maybe they won't like specifically do like, oh, the Dunwich ones are next. They might just like kind of pick random ones and do whatever ones they are vibing with. Probably depends how many the game center sells.
Oh yeah,
really.
That's where you can get them.
Yeah, but Yeah, overall, I think these are kind of fun scenarios. I think it's you kind of evaluate whether they're worth like actually inserting into campaign to see if it's like worth the time and the effort. Like if you're trying to like min max or whatever. But I mean, if you just looking to have a good fun time and have a bit of a challenge, I think they're worth doing, and you can kind of get some fun rewards or crippling penalties to your investigators. And I guess my hope is that they do keep doing these over time, in between actual releases.
Let's spice it up.
And yeah, because I think it's an interesting way to remix older investigators and
Add a little
let them
spice.
see the table
The
again.
old-
Also, a fun way for them to make the really awful core set weaknesses a little nastier if you get the advanced version.
It made them worse.
Yep.
Yeah, that's fair.
But you don't have to take those, and so.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah. So, how does everybody else feel about the parallel investigators? Has anybody found the challenging scenarios to kind of be worthwhile enough to inject into your campaigns? Send your thoughts to us over at comments@mur.fm. To stay current on what we're doing, follow us on social media networks, including Instagram and Twitch. Again, the links to these are all at social.mur.fm. If you really enjoy what we do and want to get more involved, you can become one of our patrons at patreon.com/Miskatonic University Radio, or just leave us a nice review on your favorite podcasting source. Thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll catch you next time.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.